Okay, people, so I am just back from a screening of F1 the movie, right? Opened slightly earlier in the UK. This is the new film from Joseph Kosinski. He directs and Ehren Kruger writes. Okay, the film is then produced by longtime collaborator Jerry Bruckheimer. It is also produced by Dede Gardner, Jeremy Kleiner, Chad Oman, Brad Pitt, and Joseph Kosinski. It is executive produced by Daniel Lupi, Ian Holmes, Toby Hefferman, Stefano Domenicali, along with Tim Bampton. It is co-produced by John K. Campbell, Emily Chung, Ben Pills, Melissa Reed, and Penny Fu. It's associate produced by Richard Sanders, Jonathan Nicholas, Dean Locke, David B. Lenner, and James Boughton. Okay. The film has a score from Hans Zimmer. Claudio Miranda took care of cinematography, with Stephen Mirone on editing duties. Lucy Bevan and Emily Bruckman were on casting. Production design is handled by Ben Monroe and Mark Tildesley. Oliver Benson, Ed Cross, Abe El Habashi, Hugh McKelland, Timothy Moon, Will Newton, Steve Smith, and Ketan Waikar are all down with art direction. Set decoration, we have Raymond Castro D'Azzaro, Andrew McCarthy, and Veronique Mellery. Julian Day is costume design. Hair and makeup, we have Rachel Anderson, Raquel Amazdota, Zara Azmi, Sarah Blair, Helga Bossman, Poppy Clouter, Sally Crouch, Tracy Gallagher, Cecile Gershiken, Peter Ganguzzi, Gemma Hoff, Eden Klein, Denise Kuhm, Celine Lambeau, James McKinnon, Eliza McCabe, Beta Mike, Lauren Osborne, Nikita Ray, Dakota Rogers, Laura Skalka, Valley Space Sparrow, Afton Staunton, Anita Stasbo, Hannah Ula Shahar, Deborah Wheat, Zamphia White, Tracy Wines, and Julia Marie Gallon. Right, EO. So, do we have stunts? We don't seem to have the stunt people listed, which is a shame. Okay, so let's get to our cast. Okie dokie. We have Sonny Hayes, played by Brad Pitt. His friend and now team owner Ruben Cervantes is played by Javier Bardem. Right? Javier's what would you call her? technical director, yes, at APXG is Kate McKinnon, played by Kerry Corden. Another member of my God, the name's just floated out my head. Ruben's bald, right? Is Kasper Malinsky, played by Kim Bodnia. The race engineer, right? Nickleby is played by Will Merrick. We've got their other driver, right? The young protege who Sonny has come to help, Joshua Pearce, played by Damson Idris, right? His mother, Bernadette, is played by Sarah Niels. His PR man, I think it might be his cousin, Cash, is played by Samson Ko. Right, we also have got Rico Fazio, right? Joshua's race engineer, played by Joseph Balderrama. There's the chief mechanic, Dodge Dowda, played by Abdul Salis. There's Jody, right, a mechanic, played by Kalia Cook. We have got... Okay, who else do we have? Dan Cavendish, played by Simon Kuntz. Lisbeth Bampton, played by Liz Kingsman. There is Peter Banning, played by Tobias Menzies. Okay, we have got Simone Ashley is in it as herself. Lizelle, played by Ramona von Pusch. Barney Smith, I think Lizelle is Casper's wife, right? His son is played by Barney Smith. His daughter is played by Poppy Smith. We've got Luca Cortez, the backup driver for the team, played by Luciano Bachetta. There's Pippa Le Guin, played by Rosie Dwyer. She is she works in the tech department at Apex. We got Martin Brundle, David Croft playing themselves. The Daytona race broadcaster is played by Lee Diffie. Chip Hart, played by Shay Wigman. Patrick Long is himself. We've got the strategy director, played by Michael Aaron Milligan. Carl Ranking is Cal Kesko. Okay, we've got Sonny's assistant, Molly, played by Rachel Walters. The BMW driver is played by Stephen Sean Garland. Will Buxton is himself. Rachel Brooks herself. Natalie Pinkman herself. Maria Toma is a presenter. Tom Clarkson is the Vegas press conference presenter. Yeah, I mean, that's the main group of people, right? So the gist of the film, a Formula One driver comes out of retirement to mentor and team up with a younger driver. Kind of it, right? I think there's a bit more to it, you know? Oh, let's see what this one says. Okay. Branded dubbed the greatest that never was, Sonny Hayes was Formula One's most promising phenom of the 90s until an accident on the track nearly ended his career. 30 years later, he's a nomadic racer for hire when he's approached by his former teammate Ruben Cervantes, owner of a struggling Formula One team that is on the verge of collapse. Ruben convinces Sonny to come back to Formula One for one last shot at saving the team and being the best in the world. He'll drive alongside Joshua Pearce, the team's hotshot rookie, intent on setting his own pace. But as the engines roar, Sonny's past catches up with him, and he finds that in Formula One, your teammate is your fiercest competition, and the road to redemption is not something you can travel alone. Right? So that's the film, people. That's the film. Now, there's a lot of talk about this film, right? During Formula One season, they did a lot of the pickup shots and stuff like that, right? I think Pitt and Idris drove actual Formula 3 and 2 cars. So a lot of work went into this film, right? And there's experience. Brockheimer produced Days of Thunder back in the day, so, all of that, plus it's backed by Formula One itself, the FIA, right? They backed it. Lewis Hamilton's a producer on it. I don't know how much he did, what he did, but, he's there. So they've got the expertise on hand, right? Got the expertise on hand. Now, Formula One, it was never something I was totally enamored with. I used to, watch it back in the day because, growing up as a kid, a friend liked it. There's a Formula One Mega Drive game that we played. So, there was a little bit like, oh, okay, so what's the gist? What's the boom? Boom? So, I watched it a bit. There was like Ayrton Senna, Damon Hill, Schumacher, all of them's around at the time, right? Nigel Mansell as well. He was there doing his thing. So, watched a few races. But the thing that always got me was, this is a little tangent, people. This is a little tangent. But it's not necessarily how good a driver you are. It's more about the car, right? And although there's certain specifications that have to be the same, right? The design of the car essentially the same. But then if you've got a lot of money, you can get a better engine, better tires, better, all manner of things. Which then means if you've got the best car, you can pretty much win. There's the odd driver who has been able to win shit with a not so good car. Not necessarily a shit car, but not the best car. But that's a rare thing. It's a rare thing, which then takes away some of the excitement from it, right? So I wasn't necessarily, I have to see this film, but I was intrigued, right? When you see all the people involved, I was intrigued, So going in, it's like, how are they going to tell this story, right? We start off and we have the Daytona, right? So you've got Sonny asleep in his cabin, right? In his trailer. He gets woken up. We don't know what's happening, right? But he gets woken up. And it's just like, it's your turn. Then we realize, they're at the Daytona 500, right? And that's, I think it's 24 hours. And basically, you have a team of drivers and you all take shifts. So he's come in and, the team is, he had them in first place and they dropped and he gets them back into a position, hands the car over to the next one, right? They do well, they win. But he makes these deals, right? One and done. He'll come in, do a drive, and then he'll go to the next one. And that's been his, you know, motto, ethos. There, that's the word. That's how he's been doing things for the last few years. But his buddy Ruben appears, and he's just like, "Yo, my team is fucking up. We need you." Now he doesn't agree, but we know he's gonna do it, right? So that's the buy-in. He's there to mentor this young up-and-coming driver. And I think they do a good job of giving you an insight into Sonny, right? Even Ruben, like, we get enough on him to understand what's going on there, right? So all of those elements are handled really well. I think we could have had more on Pearce, right? Joshua isn't necessarily completely fleshed out. He's kind of like, you know, a silhouette, right? We get the initial, he's young, he's cocky, right? He's trying to build a brand, right? There's a scene in it where we see Joshua training and we see Sonny training. And it really reminded me of Rocky IV, right? When you have that montage of Rocky training and then Drago training. Ivan Drago, that was it, wasn't it? Yeah, we see him training with all the tech and everything, and Rocky doing it the old school way. And we see this training method, and that really reminded me of that, you know? Now, Kerry Condon, right, her character, Kate McKenna, as the first female technical director, right, we get something there. But I feel we could get more. Because here's the thing, right? There's not a host of women in Formula One. You know what I mean? And we know Lewis Hamilton's the only black driver. I mean, he was the last time I watched it, unless there's been an influx, right? So money is the thing that really kind of separates who can drive in Formula One. Plus, as we've seen recently, last year, a new team tried to get in with veteran people involved, right? But they blocked it. So it is a closed house. They don't let anyone in, right? Which is kind of pathetic. But having Joshua and Kate there, you kind of feel there's more to it that you could really dive into. Now, it doesn't have to be, you know, we don't need it as the main plot, but it's kind of telling on why they may be striving to be what they can be. You know what I mean? And I feel that's something. Because they put a load of diversity in the film. Not on the driver front, but on the back team and all of this. We know that's not true. So it's kind of amusing that they have, right? And it's just like, look, if we want to play them games, tell the fucking story. Be truthful about it. But they don't. Now, Formula One are a part of this movie, right? They're part of the backers and all of that. So you get why they don't want to say anything. Because, you know, they want to try and act like, hey, equality is a thing, you know what I mean? But it is what it is. But I just felt those characters could have been fleshed out, really got into, right? Now, like you've, again, with the mum, right? Joshua's mum and his manager, like these elements, you know. There's another thing of the story with Callie Cook's character, Jodie, right? She's a tire mechanic. And what I'm assuming that is, I think tire mechanic is the word, right? When the car goes in the pit, she's part of the team to take off the old tires, put on the new tires, right? And it looks like she's the only woman doing it. And at the beginning, she's making bare mistakes, right? She's slow and all of this. Then there's a bit at the end, right? There's always, right? There's a scene where she's like, come on, guys, let's do this. And you're just like, okay, but how you get good? Because you were all over the place. Now, if they showed a clip of her, you know, while we're seeing, right, Joshua and Sonny training, like you could, like as you're scanning through the building, have heard they're practicing, but they don't. Right? And that's the thing. Like, how did she get good? Why is she there? You know, another element that could have helped flesh things out a little, right? But it's not. Now, there are those faults of the film. What the film does very well is really build the fucking adrenaline, right? As you're watching the race and we see people trying to overtake and then they overtake and it's just like, oh shit, right? It's like, oh, are they gonna pit? No, these teams are pitted. Wait, they've got a different strategy. Are they following the strategy? No, they're doing something else. Oh fuck, what's happening? Like all of that got you pumped. And, you know, the score used for those scenes really does build that energy. You know what I mean? Those were done very well. Just the shooting of the race was done very well. You know what I mean? All of that, right? The close up in the seats, it's not a cockpit, is it? It's a chassis. I don't know where the driver sits. Whatever you would call that, right? Those close-ups were very good. Like just showing what the driver might be going through. And those cars are tiny. So the fact, like, you know, making that shot look that confined and everything, that was really good work. Really good work. It did make me wonder because Formula One drivers aren't tall because of, you know, you want a small dude to be in that car because you don't want extra weight, right? Wherever you can cut weight, that's what you want to do, right? So they're not like hench motherfuckers, right? You're not seeing an Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime as a Formula One driver because there's going to be too much weight. So yeah, I thought they might be too tall, but you know, that's here or there. But as I said, yeah, they built that tension. They really did get you into it. And I'll say, even with the Daytona shit at the beginning, if you don't like racing or you've never really bothered with it, it does kind of get you a little peaked, right? It does kind of get you like, I might watch a race, man, right? But I think the key thing being, you have to drop this when races are happening. And I do believe there is a race at the weekend, right? Which is smart. Because I think watching this and then seeing, oh shit, there's a race on TV, I might check that out, right? It's the gateway for that. Now you just hope that race people jump on is going to be good. Because if it's rubbish, then boy, that's an opportunity lost. But it piques those interests. It does that. Now the story is kind of cheesy, right? It's kind of predictable. You know what I mean? They don't break any ground here, which is always, it makes me laugh, right? When you have these things, right? You got the screenwriter, Ehren Kruger, and then it's just like, man, and they came up with the story with, it's him, Kruger and Kosinski came up with the story, and you're just like, I mean, what was that though? You just sit in a room and go, should we make a Formula One film? Yeah, let's do it. Because there isn't anything crazy here story-wise. It is, you know, we've seen it before, essentially. Right? It does have some similar beats to Days of Thunder. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because as I said, you are engaged. You are most definitely engaged. Trying to see where this is going to go. How are they going to play it? You know what I mean? Who's gonna, just all of these things are done well. So Formula One, right? It's it's definitely worth seeing. You know, if you like racing, you would want to see it. But even if you don't like racing, I think it's something that will draw you into the drama, right? We've had some good racing films, which, you know what? My mind has gone blank. There was Rush. That was it. Rush. That was a good one with Chris Hemsworth. There was Matt Damon and Christian Bale in Ford v Ferrari, right? Which was, that was called something else in other parts of the world, right? It was full. I think it might be Le Mans, something somewhere else. But Ford versus Ferrari, those Russian Ford versus Ferrari, very good films, right? So if you enjoy those, for sure you'll want to check out F1. You know what I mean? You definitely will, right? Because it does do those things. If you enjoy Days of Thunder, you'll want to watch F1. It does that good job, you know? And although there are, as I said, there are some characters that aren't necessarily fully fleshed out, there is enough there for you to care, right? It isn't that they are so devoid of anything. You're wondering, wait, who the fuck are they? No, there is enough there, right? There is enough drama and intrigue to get you. The film, it's like 2.5 hours. Now, it could be a bit shorter, right? There are things you think, they could have cut that. But, you know, even at 2.5 hours, I was still happy. I was still intrigued with what was going on. You know what I mean? So it isn't a big hurdle, right? The time. There's enough things here to keep you, fixed. Keep you in your seat. So yeah, people, F1 is now playing in cinemas and completely worth the watch.